going to talk with Dan Bice a bit about his story earlier this week on the ascendancy of Chris Abele as a political player. He's, of course, the Milwaukee County Executive. Tell us a little bit, Dan, about has anything surprised you about that he became sort of the linchpin in some of this, or a key person to put this deal together for the Bucks Arena?
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat interesting because he's actually been the furthest out of the spotlight. And it's against the backdrop of other things that he's done. He's enhanced his power as county exec, and if the budget bill goes through as it is, he'll be able to help run or select someone to run 5 failing Milwaukee public schools. So he's expanded his power, and with the Bucks Arena, he's done that even more. And he's definitely has put his imprint on it. If you look at the things that he's done, one, he's responsible for putting together a super board that would merge many of the entertainment venues under one jurisdiction. He's also trying to sell the property to around the Park East for $1. He also has agreed to certify their debt, which allows the state to collect their debt, $80 million worth of debt over the next 20 years. And then he's talking about adding some additional reforms, which would give him even more power as county exec.
Well, he's more powerful, would you say, than Scott Walker was as county executive?
Oh yeah, he's certainly enhanced the power. The position today is a much more powerful position than it was before. And part of that is that there's been a shift of responsibilities from the county board to the county executive, and that's been intentional. You can look at how he's dealt with the Bucks Arena and compare and contrast it with how Tom Barrett's done it. One has been very much on the offense, and the other one's been very much on defense. Abele, from the outset, wanted to get a deal done, and for whatever reason, some people say because he's a huge NBA fan, some people say it's just because they need to develop Park East, but for whatever reason, and he started putting ideas on the table to get it done. Barrett, by contrast, has been very cautious and defensive on what he's done, and in the end, he ends up agreeing to build a parking structure and to do a tax incremental financing for $47 million. What's interesting about this is they're both up for election next year. And Barrett acted as if he's seriously facing some challenge, which he's not, but he's being very cautious to make sure there's no one on the right and no one on the left who's going to run against him. Abele, on the other hand, is he put together this deal, which some people say is a risky deal for him, particularly the debt certification part. He's acting as if he has no opposition, and maybe he won't have serious opposition.
Well, he didn't last time, and Barrett had mostly token opposition. So do you see someone emerging with a strong, credible campaign against either one of them? This time next year it'll be over.
Yeah, the one person everyone would love to see run for local office is Sheriff Clark, but he looks less and less like someone who's interested and engaged. He's focused eventually on getting something on Fox News or his own TV show. He's just recently started a national podcast. So after him, it falls off incredibly in terms of who would be wanting to run against him. But I was talking to a Barrett person yesterday who was saying that he didn't accept this debt certification, which means going after deadbeats and poor people for debts that they owe to the city and to the county. And the city refused to do this because they were afraid if they did, that they might have a campaign like the de Blasio campaign in New York, where someone runs hard to the left against Barrett. But who would do that? The name that they were tossing out there was Senator Lena Taylor, but Senator Taylor didn't do so well in the county exec's race, and I don't think she's really a credible candidate. But so they were thinking in terms of potential candidates against them. But the concern with Chris Abele is he can self-fund a campaign, and so who wants to run against a guy who can write $1 million check to his own campaign?
Do you think someone on the county board might, just out of that ongoing
the members of the county board tend to be looking out for themselves, and so some of them are running for legislative positions, which will now pay better than theirs, and like Mark Borkowski is now running for alderman, a job that pays way better than what county board members. I don't see anybody right now seriously putting together a big campaign war chest to take him on.
Do you think Chris Abele has higher ambitions? That he may want to run for something else someday, and this will help him in that regard?
It's funny. When he first ran, he wanted his campaign committee to be Chris Abele for county exec because he told people he would never run for anything else. And my understanding, and I wrote this, he was seriously thinking about running against Ron Johnson if Russ Feingold didn't get into the race. And I think if he's able to get all of this stuff done and the buck steel doesn't collapse around him, I think he's someone who would certainly like to run for governor eventually.